So first, we'll discuss how to register. As overseas voters, we must fill out the federal postcard application, and this can ensure that we are able to vote absentee. Simply registering to vote when you sign up for your license or something while you're back stateside does not ensure that you are able to vote absentee. So it's important that annually you visit the Federal Voting Assistance Program website, which is fvap.gov, and complete your federal postcard application. You'll see as you're brought through the steps on whether or not you have to return your FPCA via email, fax, or snail mail. And if you are required to mail a hard copy application, we'll discuss your options there afterwards. Again, annually it's best to do this, as many states do require you to register absentee every year because everyone's situation changes. So please update your address, your email address, and your signature. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. And if you're unsure of which state to register in, there's a hyperlink here, but it's also at the fvap.gov website. And it can give you just a brief background of where you may or may not be eligible to vote. Once you are registered, the important part, how to vote. So this should be a very simple, easy process for everyone, but I know it's complicated. I myself have been an overseas voter in many elections, and so I know it can be cumbersome, and we want to help ensure that that process goes as smoothly as possible. So once you get your ballot, now this should be received electronically. So as overseas voters, when you fill out your postcard application, there's an option to request your ballot electronically. You may also get a hard copy ballot, but make sure to request it electronically. And this could be through internet download or email. And once you receive your ballot, complete it and return it to your local election office. Now, again, you can return it via email, fax, depending on your state, of course, but by email, fax, or regular mail. It is very important that you sign your ballot. Signing your ballot and making sure that your current signature is on file with your election office, because the signature is what many states use to determine identity when they're just looking at paper. So with us being so close to the election, within 45 days of the election, all states are required to have sent out their absentee ballots, again, either electronically or by regular mail. And so if it's at the 45-day mark and you're only expecting a hard copy ballot, getting to the UAE may cause significant delay. So if you have not received your ballot with sufficient time to then return it, we recommend completing the backup ballot, which is the federal write-in absentee ballot. And I have a link here, and I'll show you how to navigate to that on the website hereafter. But it's very important that if you do not receive a hard copy ballot or an internet download ballot, that you complete the write-in absentee ballot and return it. And if you have been registered, your Fvap is what we call it, will be accepted. So, if you belong to a state that does require you to mail a hard copy application or mail a hard copy ballot for the election, you have a few options. First is through international mail via M-Post, or if you're joining us from another country, your local official postal service, and you would do that with just an international stamp, or a commercial courier. With commercial couriers, you may be able to track your ballot so that you can ensure it's been received by your local election office, but again, that would be at your cost. And the easiest and freest way is through the US Embassy or US Consulate closest to you. So if you're joining us from the UAE, both the embassy in Abu Dhabi and the Consulate General in Dubai are accepting election materials every working day, Sunday through Thursday, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And there's no appointment necessary. You just arrive with your election materials, and you would go through the following steps with the local guard who will accept your ballot, and I'll tell you what we do with it afterwards. So it's best to bring an open and unsealed envelope, and this is so that the local guard can inspect it for the integrity of and for safety of our mail carriers back in the US. So they'll look at your envelope, they'll see that it's perfect and fine, and then they'll return it to you, at which point the voter can seal the envelope and make sure that everything is addressed properly. They'll return it to the local guard, and the voter will be able to visually see the guard put the election materials into a locked box. And at the end of every day, whether it's in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, a member of the consular section will collect the lockbox, unlock it, count the ballots, and hand carry them into our mailroom. And so at the mailroom, they will give a date, times, or a postmark date, so that it will show that it was postmarked by a specific day. This is important because many states do require some postmark dates for registration, others postmark date for ballots. So, and if you have to fill out the Fvap, or the write-in absentee ballot, then you have the option of getting a postage paid envelope at the embassy or consulate. And so if you don't have an envelope, you can pick one up. You'll just need to make sure that you have the correct address for your local election office. And here I have a link at the bottom for what that election, how you can find your local election office. Some important deadlines. The UAE, it typically takes about 4 weeks, but it can take as long as 6 weeks depending on when the mail goes out. But we will be sending a package, or a pouch is what we call it, a diplomatic pouch, which is secure mail, to the United States on October 1st. And so that's a Thursday. So we recommend everyone, if they plan to return their ballot via mail and utilize the US Embassy or Consulate General, that they return it or bring it to the embassy or consulate no later than 30 September. And so this will give your ballot 4 weeks to reach its final destination. And so that's our guidance, and we recommend people utilize our services for mailing. Again, every state is different, and some states accept ballots well after the election date, but most do require your ballot is in hand on election day. So just take a look at your state-specific guidelines and deadlines, and if you're supercharged and you want to keep track of all elections, whether they be local, federal, or primaries or runoff elections, you can download calendar alerts and have them synced directly to your personal calendar. Some important tips to remember. Unfortunately, some votes are just not counted. And the best way to mitigate that is to make sure that your ballot is complete. And as I mentioned before, the signature is very important. So when you update and register with your postcard application annually, it gives you a chance to make sure that your current signature is on file with your voting election office. Again, the signature in many states, that is what they use to determine the integrity of the ballot. So make sure to sign it and make sure that your signature is up to date. Unaddressed or improperly or incorrectly addressed envelopes will not reach their final destination. If a ballot is dropped off or brought to the embassy without an address, you will be asked to put an address on it, and if you need help in finding or locating the address, you will be escorted into the embassy, and you'll be assisted by one of the folks on our staff to help you find the address. Again, we'll have the website posted outside, and if you have a smartphone, you can quickly look that up. But if you do not have a smartphone, we'll be happy to assist you in identifying the proper address so that your vote can be counted. And again, some states have a receive by or a mail by date. And so just being cognizant of those dates and ensuring that your ballot is received or mailed by those dates to be counted. Because otherwise, if they're received late, fortunately, they will not be counted. So do your best to sign your ballot, address it correctly, and mail it before September 30th if you'll use our services. Otherwise, return it electronically if you have the privilege to do so in your state. I just want to take a quick moment for people that are not aware of the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. It is a State Department service that we offer to American citizens and US nationals abroad who are either traveling or living abroad. It's a great way for us to keep in touch with our citizens and residents while they're visiting our country. And so as we serve, or as I serve in the UAE, we send routine announcements on voting information to overseas voters. With the COVID-19 situation, we were sending weekly updates on air travel restrictions and authorities, as well as repatriation flights. So it's a great way for the US Embassy to keep in touch with you, as well as a quick means for a loved one to find you if you end up missing, or if a loved one is trying to see if you are in the country. It gives us local contact. It gives us as much information as you want to share. If you want to share your hotel or your address, we'll be able to help your loved ones find you. Or if you run into the unfortunate event, like a passport is stolen or your identification is taken, you'll already have a lot of the hard stuff done, as your step enrollment will have your passport number and your ID information already in our computer database, so it'll be easy for us to quickly look at it. So we encourage all overseas citizens and residents to enroll in STEP, which is step.state.gov, and register. It's simple, it's easy, and you can give us as much or as little information as you want, but it's a great way for us to be in touch. Here are some useful links. So I mentioned before the fvap.gov website, which is an all-inclusive federal website that will link voters directly to their states. So in the event that you are a voter in, say, Maine, and you're not sure of Maine's official voting website, start at fvap.gov and navigate yourself to Maine, and I'll show you how to do that. The US Embassy website, and all in Abu Dhabi specifically, is here, but all US embassies abroad have a state.gov website, and you can navigate to your voting specific page on the website, and it'll give you guidelines on how to vote, mail, hours of operation on that page. So I'll show you ours in just a moment. Here's our contact information. If after this session you still have questions and you are located in Abu Dhabi or Dubai or the Northern Emirates, you would reach out to Dubai, or you can reach out to me. Please send us an email, and within the same day, typically we respond, unless we receive it on a weekend and it's received at the next business day. But we are more than happy to answer your questions or guide you to a specific website or piece of instruction so that your questions are answered and we're assisting you in the voting process. If at all you want to talk to the Federal Voting Assistance Program Office, you can email vote@fvap.gov or call. So that's it for the presentation, but I can show you quickly how to navigate the fvap.gov website. So here is fvap.gov. If you have not registered to vote, you can quickly register. You would either request your ballot now, and this would bring you through the registration process, or if you want to go to your state-specific website, you can click on any state, and it will guide you to the state's online tool to start the federal postcard application here, or request your backup ballot. This is also pretty simple. If you click this big red bar, you would just accept, and then you can click on your state. And again, this would bring you through a series of questions to determine your eligibility on as an overseas voter. So if you are from Bourbon, Kansas, and you are a US citizen living outside of the country, and you intend to return or do not intend to return, you would just click the right radio button, fill out your personal information, and then at the end, it'll give you a chance to print this out and mail it. So if you have any voting questions, a great place to start is down here at the frequently asked questions. So at the bottom of every page, these frequently asked questions as to what your rights are as an overseas citizen voter, where to register, how to register, and information that you cannot physically vote at an embassy or consulate, but you can certainly return your ballot. I wanted to show you one more thing here. So as I mentioned, I put this link on the PowerPoint, but if you want to just locate your election official as to where to send your ballot, if you are, here I am, and I'm in California, I'm a California voter, and I need to find out where to send my ballot. I would search here, and I would choose which address, it looks like they're both the same, to send mine to. So that's where I would send my ballot. And in the event that you've registered and you have not received a ballot or have not received an email, you can touch base with this person at the registrar's office to confirm that your application for an absentee ballot has been accepted. So I recommend that all voters do, if they've registered and they haven't received anything, to follow up. And this is the address or phone number you would use to follow up with your registration. Here's our US Embassy website. So it's ae.usembassy.gov. And if you're joining us from another country, you would just Google US Embassy in your country, and you would go to the .gov website. And for US citizens, we have a whole host of pages, information, but for voting specifically, you would come over here in the corner to voting, and that would give you a lot of the information that I shared today and specific links that will bring you back to the Federal Voting Assistance Program website, Fvap. So that's all I have for my presentation, and I'm open to answering any questions.
So we had some people submit some questions, and they provided some answers, but maybe we could, we have some folks that are dedicated to screening questions and passing them on. Can you see the questions in the box, Elena?
I can. So I see one question. Are there alternate ways to send our votes? And yes, it depends though on your state. So please check with your state. So through the fvap.gov website, you can go directly to your state's portal, and your state will tell you if you can return your federal postcard application via email, fax, internet response, or through regular mail. Many states now accept registration through the internet or electronically. And but if your state, I know Texas for one, you need to actually mail your postcard application back to your local election office. You can complete it online, but they want a hard copy, and that is for the signature verification. And for the final ballot, again, less states now allow you, or more states, excuse me, allow you to do complete or vote completely online, but still many states do require you to send a hard copy ballot. So just check with your state on the state specific guidelines, because every state is different. Okay. Are there any other questions? Oh, that was just in the chat.
Alana,
How much?
Q&A?
Okay.
Oh, so you see the Q&A?
Yeah, I see it now. I see it now. Thanks, Lonnie. So how much should the stamp cost? So we have at the embassy postage paid envelopes, so that's completely free. It already has a stamp on it that will get your ballot to its final destination. If you're using international mail, it would be the cost of an international stamp. So it depends on where you are sending it from. And then if you use commercial couriers, you'd pay whatever DHL or FedEx requires. But there's no minimum amount except for free. Another question. So for this question, being your last home being in Seattle, but your last residence was Arizona, where should I register? There's a link I added on how to determine where you're eligible to vote. And typically it's where you were last domiciled in the United States. There are several states that allow citizens who have never lived in the United States to vote. And so you would just have to figure that out. My recommendation is take a look at that link. If you're able to answer all the questions that determine your eligibility, then you should feel confident that you're eligible to register and subsequently vote in that state. But if you're unsure, reach out to your local election official and describe your situation. Let them know who you are, where you lived, what your intentions are, where you live now, and they'll let you know whether or not your vote would be counted. So it's best to talk to the people who count your vote to see if they'll actually accept it. But rule of thumb, where you were last domiciled. A question from Julie. Do you have to submit your ballot, or can a friend submit it for you? A friend certainly can if you trust them. We recommend the voting process should be as secure as possible, and overseas that can be difficult. So if you are going to have a friend submit your ballot, we recommend you seal your ballot personally. The US Embassy will accept sealed ballots. However, if you are personally dropping off your ballot, we recommend that you leave it open just for visual inspection. But if you feel safer sealing your ballot and then letting a friend drop it off, we will still accept that. So yes, a friend can drop it off for you if you trust them. But we recommend that you put your full faith and confidence in that person to submit your ballot without any compromise. Okay, we have another question. Would we recommend voters who are not able to get to the ballot by September 30th? If it's October 14th, what should we do? You can still submit your ballot. We will still be sending mail. We will continue to send mail. However, we cannot guarantee that it will reach its final destination before Election Day. We are recommending the September 30th deadline because it gives 4+ weeks to get to its final destination. And that's our standard window where we know things will make it back to the United States in time. So if it's October 14th and we have a batch of mail going out, your ballot certainly will go in that batch. However, we cannot guarantee it would get there by election day. It may be one of the lucky ones, but all of our mail gets its first stop is in Washington, D.C., and it goes through a mail sorting facility. And then from there, it goes into the US postal system. So if you are an East Coast voter in the Washington, D.C. or Delmarva area, it's very likely that your vote will be delivered really quickly. If you are a West Coast voter, it may take some more time. How long does it take to register? It can be as easy as 5 minutes if your state allows you to do things completely online. And it can be super simple, or it can be a little more cumbersome. So it depends on the state. Typically, voters, when they submit their registration, they will not get a response that registration has been accepted. So if you're unsure if you've completed your registration process, we recommend you reach out to your local election office. If you are not registered in a specific state, does your overseas vote count in any specific jurisdiction in the general election? The answer is no. Federal votes, you need to be registered in the state to be eligible to vote. I know it's counterintuitive, but there are, if you've never been domiciled in a state, if you've never lived in the United States, but maybe a parent or a loved one has been a member of a state that does allow non-domiciled or never domiciled Americans to vote, then you may be in luck that you could vote there. You have to be registered and affiliated with a specific state or jurisdiction to vote. What do we need to use a Kirschman? I was unaware that commercial couriers like DHL were unable to send to PO boxes. So a PO box should be able to accept mail, but you may not be able to have it tracked if it's going to a PO box. So that's, if your voting jurisdiction only has a PO box and you're a commercial courier and you want to track your ballot and the commercial courier is saying that it's not able to send it, you can reach out to your voting jurisdiction and see if they have an alternate address for you to use as an overseas voter. So that might be able to. We have another question that they're visiting the US in September, October. You absolutely can take your ballot and mail it there. And if you want to, you can take some friends' ballots back with you and just drop it in the post office. So it does not, as an absentee voter, a US citizen overseas, if you feel more comfortable bringing your ballot back to the United States, but yet you'll still be outside of your voting jurisdiction on election day, you most certainly can mail it from within the United States. Okay, confirming the signature on file is correct. Again, this is something that you would have to ask your local election office. Signing with your signature with your finger on a tablet does look different than signing your signature with a pen on a piece of paper. So if it's, I can't speak on behalf of each individual state and what their scrutiny is on the comparison of signatures. So it would be best to check with them, your local election office. We have, what time does the embassy open each day? So both the embassy and consulate general are available at 8 a.m. till 4 p.m. So you can drop your ballot off during that time. How can you check to see if your ballot's been received and counted? So again, this is a state-specific question. I know I'm a California voter, and I'm able to look at every election that I've ever voted in and see that it was either received late or on time, and if it was counted. So that's one thing that California has for people for tracking their votes. But if your state does not offer kind of an online voter check-in, then you could reach out to your local election office and give them some personal information, and they'd be able to look that up. But every vote is, when it is counted, it should be logged that it has been received by a specific person. And this is to eliminate voter fraud with any one specific voter voting multiple times, or if somebody's voted on your behalf, you would be able to dispel any of that. So check with your local election office if there's no online portal for you to do.